trying to get a video up before it gets too hot so the AC gets on. That also means the lighting is not as good. C'est la vie. Or maybe that's a good thing because I probably have really bad bags under my eyes. Anyway. So I have a fun one today. I was in the ER yesterday, and the only thing I had on my phone to read was A Court of Thorns and Roses that I had downloaded a couple weeks ago from the library, so it's probably going to expire soon anyway. And I had read like 5 pages of it and got so bored. It was so awful. But you know, when you're stuck in the ER for 4 hours, you read what you have. So I feel like I'm a little more equipped to talk about it now. I didn't get to any of the steamy parts, and that's part of the problem, is that I didn't get anywhere in this book. I read about 70 pages, at least Kindle pages, and nothing happens. I mean, like, okay, yeah, she gets taken into she gets taken into fairy for reasons. And I kept thinking while I was reading this, I'm like, why? Why does this exist? Why is this author a bestseller who sold millions of copies of her books in various languages? Now, admittedly, if you count up all the books she's written, and she's written quite a few, and you divide 40 million, and then you do different languages, but also the fact that they're counting Kindle editions, and they're counting library stuff, and they're counting free books, she's probably not really sold that many copies of A Court of Thorns and Roses, but she sold enough that she would have been on the bestseller list 20 years ago, regardless. So, like, and I kept thinking about it too, because I was like, well, do I have to give Twilight another chance now? Because like, reading this, I almost feel like I did a disservice to Twilight. That's how much better Twilight is than this book. And so there's a lot to be said about, well, are people reading this because, I don't know, a slippery slope of some sort? The, like, well, they read Harry Potter, and then they read Twilight, and then they read 50 Shades of Grey, and then they just kind of started looking for things that gave them that euphoric rush, or I don't know. Like, I'm this book is bad, okay? And it makes me ashamed that my debut novel was an urban fairy tale. That's how bad this book is. And I hate that, because I've loved fairies and fairy tales for years. Like, when I was little, I would seek out, like, the real bloody versions of the Brothers Grimm stories, and wanted the absolute first version of any written fairy tale because they usually were the most violent. And I loved fairy lore, the real fairy lore. And I used to research this stuff. I mean, when I say, like, Ireland, I think that's Yeats. Yeah. That's a book of fairy and folk tales of Ireland, okay? That's what I keep my eyes on because it's very prominent, okay? So, like, that whole shelf, look at it if you can. Just zoom in and you can read all the titles. It's all fairy tales, the real fairy tales, the real stuff. I know my fairy lore inside and out, and I'm not saying A Court of Thorns and Roses doesn't have some of that. Obviously it does, but I don't get it. And I can't even say, well, it's like AI written, so maybe you're just getting a dopamine hit, and therefore okay, maybe there's an excuse for why you're suckered into this. I can't even say, like, maybe the way romance novels are. Like, I've read plenty of those. I'm ashamed of how many I've read, actually. There was a time there where I thought, like, I had found some really good romance novelists, and I thought, oh, I'll make a channel about how there are some good romance novels out there, and don't get me wrong, there are, and I would recommend them to anyone who wants to um, enjoy themselves in more ways than one when they're reading. But they're still romance novels, okay? And so there's a structure to the romance novel where, they're, first of all, they're not very long. They introduce you to the male and female and give the back and forth, will they, won't they, the chase, the whatever the story's about. And then, about the 75% mark, they usually give way to the sex. So there's structure to it. So even if parts are a slog, and believe me, I've read some romance novels that are total slog, there's the steamy parts. So by page 70, they're gonna kiss. By page 70 in this book, she's still fighting with these fairy dudes. And I don't even know which one's supposed to be. No, I do know because I know fairy lore. So, oh, Tamlin. Oh, so original. Who's gonna be the love interest, I wonder? I'm sorry. So bad. And I'm in the ER, so I'm not in a really great position as it is. I'm stressed out and going through something, right? And this is all I have. And gosh, now I'm starting to miss the People magazines that you used to see in the doctor's office. I don't know. And all I can say about it is it's obvious that the success that this book has had, so there's the manufactured side of the success, which is its own set of things. I don't know how she got this book deal and how it blew up, but it did. It hit the zeitgeist just right. That's partially manufactured, that's also partially word of mouth. I strongly suspect, because I've heard the sex in it is really fetishistic, so I strongly suspect that was part of it, that if you can get to the sex scenes, that they are but you know what? That's also a problem. Okay? Like, why is everything in stories fetishes? It's just everything has sex, and almost all the sex is grotesque, okay? No way to say it. It's not two people who love each other and come together, which even of itself, I'm not sure I want to be a voyeur to that. I love romance, and I have romance in my book, and I even have sex scenes in my book. But I try really hard to make a point with the sex scenes. They're not there to titilize you. They're there to explore the relationship between my characters. So I keep it simple. I keep it wholesome for the most part. And I try very hard never to reference genitalia in my books. Because why? I was reading one of those literary books, Brooklyn, right? Yeah, Brooklyn. It's called Brooklyn, about, the Irish girl who comes to America. And besides the fact that it was really boring, and the movie was better, for many reasons, every time it would talk about, it would use the word penis. And every time he did that, I just started laughing. Because penis is like the least sexy word you can use. Penis and vagina, it just, mm-mm. Don't ever use it in your writing. Like, if you're gonna have to reference someone's genitalia, be flowery and use euphemisms. It's otherwise it's clinical and it takes you out of it like really hard. And I know there's the like, well, he wasn't trying to get your he wasn't trying for you to get your rocks off. I'm like, no, I get that. It's a literary book, but like, penis. Good thing I don't care about monetization, right? I'm sorry. It's embarrassing. And the only thing I can say is that I do think A Court of Thorns and Roses is part of the reason the publishing industry has gone downhill. That this is what gets recommended one way or another. People pick it up. There are avid fans who buy every single version of this book as it comes out. Like, oh, here's a leather-bound version. Oh, I must grab it and put it on my shelf so it looks like my shelf is beautiful because I have all these pornos. Leather-bound pornos on your shelf. But don't I look like I'm an amazing reader? No, you look like the Marquis de Sade. I mean, actually, that was a thing. Victorians had a lot of leather-bound pornos on their shelf. Okay, maybe you're no better. I'm sorry. I'm baffled, but that's all I can say is I do think there's like the avid fans, and then I think there was like the marketing push was probably really, really good at the time. I don't remember. I just remember the book being everywhere. It probably helped because it was like 2015, so it was around the same time as Hunger Games. So, and Hunger Games is okay. Hunger Games has its issues. I actually like the prequel book to the Hunger Games so much better than the Hunger Games, but of course you can't experience the prequel book without reading the Hunger Games. But she really captured something in that book that you don't really see a lot. The villain arc, right? So while the Hunger Games has its faults, and like I never finished the third book, overall I enjoyed it. Like, and my husband and I have actually discussed like how would you make those better, and we've come up with like thoughts like, you know, okay, here's a thought. Wouldn't the Hunger Games have been so much better from Peeta's perspective? Like, forget the love triangle, forget the whatever, just what is Peeta going through? Because, to be honest, Peeta's way more interesting than Katniss. But I digress. So you have that was really popular. You have Twilight was really popular, so like love triangles were popular. And A Court of Thorns and Roses has a love triangle. And it has fairies, which fairies doesn't really go out of style. Like when I was publishing The Chaos Child, people were like, oh, it's so great because everyone's into fairies. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because I read a crap ton of fairy stories, like urban fairy tales or modern retellings in the 2000s. And I was like really heavily influenced by Holly Black, who is now heavily influenced by A Court of Thorns and Roses. But her early stuff was fun, especially the young adult stuff. Like, if you purely see it as young adult stuff, it's great. That's also the problem with Court of Thorns and Roses. What is it? It's not young adult. It's not, but it doesn't have any, I mean, okay, there's so much to be said about the young adult fiction being as bad as it is, but I mean, maybe you can just make the excuse that young adult readers are... No, you can't, okay? You can't. That's the problem. That's the problem with this series. It's bad. It's so bad. It's ruined the publishing industry because all they want to publish is more of this, but the more they publish this, the less they get readers and the less they get people, because the only people reading this book are the avid fans. You fooled us once, right? You got a bunch of people who said, oh, maybe it's Hunger Games, Twilight adjacent, but it's worse than those two. And those two weren't the best either. And and so you're just like, now everyone's like done. You have so many people who checked out. And not to mention, like, men are not even reading at all because after Harry Potter, they had nothing. Like, you had all these boys who read Harry Potter, loved Harry Potter, and then they go to the bookstore and it's Twilight, it's Hunger Games, it's Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, they'll read Hunger Games because there's something in there for men, but they're not going to read Twilight. And fine, Twilight is a Mormon wet dream, okay? But if I can remember, if I think back on it, I can remember it kind of captured some of that awkwardness of high school, or I don't know, I'm making shit up at this point, let's be honest. Twilight felt like it had value and it doesn't, but that's what you're forcing me to say. I have to somehow defend Twilight. No, I can see why Twilight was popular. I can see that it's stupid, but sometimes you just want to read stupid. Guilty pleasures exist for a reason. I read romance novels because I want to shut my brain off. And Twilight gives that to you, especially if you're a high school girl. And you know what? You can even see that as an older woman who doesn't really want sex in their books, but they want that, like, that give and take. Twilight does technically deliver that. A Court of Thorns and Roses, at least these first 7, 8 chapters. I have no idea. I read 70 pages and I got nowhere. I don't know if I can even summarize it. It's wait, okay, so let me try to summarize it. She kills a wolf. She goes to town to sell the pellets. It's a Beauty and the Beast ripoff. And then a fairy comes and says, you killed my wolf, who was a fairy, question mark? So now you have to go to fairy because of treaties and terrible world building. I mean, like, horrendous world building. And I'm not interested in this main character. I am not interested in these fairies. I am not interested in the sisters. I hate everyone I've met. Even the badass mercenary in the town. She was obnoxious too. The writing is horrific. I mean, again, I read this on Kindle, so I don't have to think about the writing because you automatically skip words when you're reading on the screen and not in front with the page in front of you. I keep stopping because of how many sentences I have to reread to like go, what the heck did you just say? And she said nothing. I even read a sentence out to my husband while I was in the ER because I'm like, I'm not crazy. This sentence is ridiculous. It was something, she was trying to describe the room and she went like, gold sketchings on the wall. And my husband went, what the heck is that? What is gold sketchings? Is it flowers? Is it birds? Is it stripes? Is it swirly patterns? What is gold sketchings? Sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that my book is going to be compared to this. I'm embarrassed that the people who are going to pick up my book are going to pick it up because they think it's like this. This was so infuriating. I've had a sequel in mind for The Chaos Child for a couple years now. And I turned to my husband and I said, I don't think I can. I think I need to shelve it for a couple years because I had no idea just how bad this genre is. And I cannot in good conscience contribute to it until I have established myself as something other, so you are not comparing me to this trash. No one is reading anymore. The only people who are reading are not readers. Do not care about character development, do not care about wordsmithing, good writing, good grammar, good anything. Good world building, which I have my own thoughts about world building, but even so, they are reading it for the porn. They are the people who watch the entire plumber video because they need a story to get off. That is what these books are, and those are the only people reading. And joke's on you, I found better written stuff on lit erotica. At least I will never be embarrassed for what I have written. There is nothing anyone can say to me at this point that will make me ashamed of what I've written, because Sarah J. Maas is a bestseller, and I am 100 times better than her. So even if everyone tells me I write other trash, I didn't write A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I am proud that I didn't write that. I don't think anyone should be proud that they have read that.